Hi, everybody. Welcome to Friends Talk Money. I'm Pam Kruger, co-host of Money Track on public television and founder of wealthramp.com.
I'm Richard Eisenberg, a personal finance writer and editor, and formerly the editor of the Money and Work channels for the PBS site for people over 50, nextavenue.org.
And I'm Terry Savage, nationally syndicated personal finance columnist and the author of The Savage Truth on Money.
We're three friends who like to talk money and all the issues that come with it.
On this podcast, we're trying to help you understand your personal finances
to get you and your retirement on the right path for true financial peace of mind. Hi, everybody. Today, we're going to talk about what's arguably the most significant financial decision you'll ever make, and it comes when you're about to retire. It's a decision that's entirely in your hands, and it's deciding what to do with that giant hunk, hopefully giant hunk of retirement money that you've accumulated. You've worked so hard to have up to that point. And then when you're ready to leave the company, that's the decision. Now, I'm betting that the balance that you're thinking about rolling over or not is more than you've ever dreamed, because the stock market has been at all-time highs. So you'll need to answer the question, do you leave that money in your existing plan if the company will allow it? And if that decision is the one that's truly the best choice, great, but it might not be. Maybe the investment choices that are in your 401k plan or your 403b were designed for younger workers who are trying to build wealth. And there's only a few conservative fixed income choices in the plan. Or maybe your 401k's mutual funds have higher management fees than, say, an index fund. So that question of, do you roll the money to your own IRA and keep the money at Schwab or Vanguard, and start picking inexpensive index funds, you have an advisor or not, is that really all that you have to consider at that point? Is that it? Are you done after you make that decision? I say the answer is no, because there's real retirement planning that involves cash flow planning, taxes, family assets. What about real estate? So unless you're a person, and I know very few, who feel that you will always have enough money for the rest of your life and you never want to even worry about it, you might want some guidance. But the question becomes, who do you rely on for that guidance? And a lot of people do turn back to their employer and their plan's financial services representatives to get that guidance. So this is a challenge that we're going to discuss today, because this rollover decision is so important that the Department of Labor is introducing a brand new fiduciary rule. Now, the Department of Labor regulates advice at work that touches your retirement plan. So their aim is to rein in any unethical rollover recommendations. So if this sounds familiar, it is, because back in 2016, there was a fiduciary rule. Parts of it were enacted, and then it got struck down in about 2018. So what is this rule? This rule just basically says the advice that you get on your rollover recommendations really cannot be a sales pitch that's not in your best interest in order to sell an annuity or sell a mutual fund. Instead, the advice has to be in the employee's best interest. Now, that sounds absurd, because why would we need a rule that would force an advisor in your 401k plan or broker or an insurance agent to act in the client's best interest, in the employee's best interest? Richard, Terry, we can all see the DOLs waving a red flag, and they're saying and signaling something's broke here with rollover advice at work, and we have to fix it. And you followed this fiduciary rule. Getting into the politics of it, what are your thoughts on this new rule and why it's coming up again?
I'll start by saying I can see why the Department of Labor is concerned about this, because in my mind, and I think in their mind too, there's no reason why there should be an exception for when people have to make a choice of what to do with their retirement money, that the person who's going to give them advice, if they go to get advice from somebody, that person shouldn't have their best interest at heart. And there has been an exclusion over the years that basically said they don't have to have your interest advice, first. Now they should, and many of them do, but not all of them have to. This would require them to do that. And I think it's sort of sad that there needs to be a rule, but I feel like if the marketplace isn't taking care of it itself, then the government has to step in. And I think the problem is sometimes people are getting advice that are putting them into investments that are expensive or not appropriate for them, and because they're going to be very helpful for the commission salesperson who's selling it. And I feel like that's why we're seeing it. Now, is there a better way to do it? Maybe, but I feel like it's a start to basically ensure that people getting advice are going to be getting advice that's looking out for them.
Let's focus for a minute on this one moment in time, Pam, as you said. All of a sudden, the odds are you are going to roll over because someone tells you to. That's not a good reason, but because you'll find better, and maybe even, you're right, Pam, lower cost choices outside the 401k plan. What this focus is that there is right now an army. You see the advertisements on TV, the commercials, rolling over, talk to us, and there's an army of financial industry salespeople, let's call them what they are, standing there looking at your 487,000 or 792,000. Oh my goodness, look at your 401k market at all-time highs, and saying, we'll show you what to do. We'll give you this deal, and there'll be you'll have money for the rest of your life. So the question is, do we rely, first of all, does a company allow the people that are running their 401k plan to give you advice that may or may not be fiduciary at this moment? Let's go back. For a long, long time, employers were not allowed to tell employees anything except give them a list of the mutual funds. It's maybe only 10, 12 years ago that the DOL, which regulates, Labor Department regulates 401k plans, said you can provide unbiased investment advice, and you, the employer, will not be responsible as long as it's unbiased. And we're talking about money within the plan. That's all the DOL covers. Now they've come up with this idea that somewhere the company should be responsible for the advice you might get or that they allow in as we come to this rollover. It could be the current plan manager of your 401k. It could be outside advice. And I will tell you firsthand that every corporation is struggling with this. I chair the compensation committee of a major US company, and which prides itself on having excellent low-cost choices for the plan participants. But no corporation wants the responsibility of telling you that Joe's a good guy. You could listen to Joe for your rollover advice, but Sam's a bad guy. No company wants to go anywhere near that. If this new fiduciary rule is a great thing, everybody should be a fiduciary, as Richard said. The three of us are your fiduciaries. We're not making any money off of you. But anybody who takes money from you in a fee, a commission, or whatever, unless they sign the pledge, the fiduciary pledge, you don't know. And corporate America does not want to be the babysitter for your rollover. So Pam, what do you do about this?
And also, let's realize that we're talking specifically about advice at work from the folks that you've seen maybe for the past several years around and about your 401k. Do they already have your information? Yes, they do. Outside advisors you go to independently don't have your internal plan data. They don't have your savings. They don't know what you've been contributing. They don't know all those details. But these plan advisors, who are often brokers and typically, they can be insurance salespeople, they have access to all that data. Now, as they get closer and closer to touching the rollover, when you're about to leave the company, remember, here's the key: you're leaving the company. You're no longer going to be an employee. That advice that they give you right there on the spot at work is going to follow you into the rest of your life. That's what's at stake here. That's why the DOL is saying, whoa, and they're not doing it because it's political. They're doing it. They want they want all advice to be best interest. And the reason is because it's in demand. It's in response to the demand from employees who have been suing. There have been more lawsuits against companies because they're saying this advice was a sales pitch. It wasn't really advice, or these funds had excessive fees and you should have known better, employer. I want to play for you a recording. You're going to hear the voice of attorney Kevin Walsh. He's with Groom Law. It's one of the largest employee benefits firms in the country, law firms that helps companies, plan sponsors, and employers prepare for this change about this fiduciary rule. So here's what Kevin had to say about what the Department of Labor is trying to do and why.
The goal of what the Labor Department is trying to do is they're trying to make sure that when somebody says to someone who's thinking about leaving their retirement plan, say, you know, you should buy an annuity product, you should buy an insurance product, you should roll over and open an IRA with me, they're trying to hold that person who's making that recommendation to ERISA's fiduciary standard of care.
Guys, Kevin's not a fan of the fiduciary rule in its current form. He told me it's about accountability now because you're no longer as a plan service rep selling annuities. All of a sudden, magically, you have a much higher level of responsibility. You've got to step up, and it's legal. That means that the recommendations for those products that are being made at the rollover point have to be, with the new rule, solely in the employee's best interest. That's a huge leap. That's asking a lot. And it has—
But it's a great idea, Pam. It is a great idea. The question is, who's going to enforce that?
Exactly. But listen to what Kevin says about the implications that it has at the 401k level.
It's going to impact everyone from brokers to insurance agents to advisors, but it's going to have a different impact on who you are, and it's only going to have an impact when you're giving advice to retirement investors. You know, you watch commercials online and you see, you know, I think one has a green line, one has an orange line. You know, they're both have business models that are around the idea that looking holistically at an individual can be different than looking at them just as a plan participant.
Bingo. Nobody doubts that the DOL has good intentions, but in terms of personalized, holistic rollover advice, can you honestly tell me that a one-time product recommendation, oh, an annuity is going to solve all your problems for the rest of your life, that might take hundreds of thousands of dollars out of your retirement and put it into that one product, and that one product is really going to be the one size fits all that aligns with every individual participant's best interest without even doing a deep dive into that individual's family circumstances, their taxes, their health, their longevity. I mean, it's like walking into the doctor for the very first time and she says, sit down. I know a great drug for you. And by the way, just so I disclose it, I get a nice big sales commission if you buy it. You want to sign up now? Terry, Richard, you're in touch with a lot of people. And I'm talking about the people who are retiring. We all are. The DOL wants these recommendations that they're making to be fiduciary. Is it, like to Terry's point, how would you ever be able to enforce it even if the rule is put through? Is it realistic?
Well, let me say two things about what I've been hearing. One is, to me, this reminds me a lot about robo-advisors. Robo-advisors, for our audience who aren't familiar, are these companies who basically you give them your money and electronically they will decide where to invest it for you. And it's low fee, and they usually have good choices for investments. But what they don't know is anything about you other than your investments. Maybe they know your age and where you live, and that's about it. And to me, that's a problem because unlike a regular human advisor who knows a lot more about you, or at least should know about you, they know whether you have long-term care issues that you're dealing with for your family, or you've got adult children who need help, or you've got medical issues or whatever. All those things are important to think about when you're making financial decisions. So with the plan sponsors, all they know about you is how much money you've got in the 401k and your age, and that's about all they know. And so I'm concerned about those people, the people who work for those companies, giving advice to people about what to do with this big chunk of money now that they're leaving their company. I also want to mention there's a really interesting paper that came out by 3 really smart retirement experts. One of them is Olivia Mitchell, who some people in our audience may know, with the Wharton School. And it's called The Pros and Cons of Remaining in a 401k Plan After Retirement. And what they did was they looked at, well, you could roll your money over into an IRA, you could keep your money at your 401k, which is better? And their answer was there isn't one answer for everybody, but they said, generally speaking, wealthier people who probably have financial advisors and are more knowledgeable about finances as a rule would probably do better to go outside their 401k plan and work with an advisor in a financial firm and make the right choices because they'll understand them and they're familiar with them. But that people who are lower and middle income people who don't have much experience with finances other than putting money into 401k and probably don't have a financial advisor are probably going to be better off staying with the 401k because the fees are typically pretty low. The investment choices are usually pretty broad and they've been able to make choices there. And so why move to a place and then get taken by somebody who's going to take advantage of you, who might take advantage of you because of what you don't know? And I thought that was a pretty interesting way of looking at things.
Very interesting, but here's my problem. It's the wrong question. Rollover, investment, do this, do that. That's a one-time decision. It's not a one-time decision. It's a huge planning exercise. So the question is, are you prepared? Do you have all the context you need to really make this decision? That's the question. Do you have the context? Then people can say, what do you mean by context? Taxes, family, all of it, children, aging parents.
I think the critical ingredient here is it's about maybe rollover, maybe don't. Okay. It's about what you do, not only at that moment, but who you listen to, number one. If you're only or proximally exposed to the advice from the company that is doing the providing the investments. So at this moment, the question is, who do you turn to for advice? And the real answer is we haven't yet explained to America that the person standing there saying, I'll tell you what to do, is not necessarily on your side. In fact, the odds are the person presenting you with this great useful help is trying to make a lot of money for his or her retirement by selling you something with commissions. Now, I know you can't legislate morality, but you can prepare for this moment if you haven't retired yet, this big one-time decision, by talking to a fee-only fiduciary financial advisor, not so much only about the investments, but about, okay, but Richard, you came up with all the scenarios. I have to help the kids. My grandson is da-da-da-da-da. And all those decisions inform, yeah, you're going to keep it growing tax-free in your IRA, but you're going to do some planning. Do I do a Roth conversion? Will that impact my Medicare premiums? You're going to say, well, who's going to be the beneficiaries and so forth. There's a lot more than just how do I invest it.
Everything is interconnected.
It's all connected. You need a holistic fee only, not trying to sell you something. Fee only stands for, this is the fee. We're going to spend a few $1,000s working with you on this plan, and we'll cover your taxes. We'll cover your your estate planning. This is our fee, and then there'll be extra fees, yes, for your lawyer to do your will and so forth. But we're going to be the quarterback for you, and we're going to understand what you need and want, and we're going to explain it to you. This is not just about investments. And the critical moment is you don't get caught in the clutches of some salesperson just when you have all this money at stake. Okay?
And I feel like with the fiduciary rule, I don't want people to get some sort of false sense of security that the government and that the DOL is taking care of everything. So therefore you don't have to, you can do even less, planning and so forth. Look, with or without a rule, with or without any advice, because you might be the best do-it-yourself holistic planner on the planet. You may not even need advice. If you're leaving your company, the key here is to understand the rollover decision and what you do for the rest of your life with your family is up to you. You are on your own. And if you do want to seek out advice, like Terry is saying, it has to be as unbiased as possible. It has to be independent. If it's a plan advisor, listen to the options. but you have to be able to really analyze that in a very objective way, because the advice has to come from somebody who works only for you. They don't work for an investment company.
But my concern is for all the people who have money in 401ks, but not a lot of money in 401ks and not a lot of money anywhere else, and whether they can get access to fee-only financial advisors, because many, if not most financial advisors have minimums of the kinds of people that they will work with, because they want to be able to earn a living themselves. And so they want to see a certain amount of wealth and assets that they will take. And if you are a person with a small portfolio in your 401k and outside or not at all outside, it may be hard. I'm not saying it's impossible. I know there are some who charge by the hour and some who will do pro bono work, but it's very hard for the middle class to afford a lot of financial advisors. That's my concern.
Now, I'm going to disagree with you there. And I'm also going to go as far as to say it's stupidly simple. The employer, instead of trying to change the people in the plan from salespeople to magically becoming fiduciaries, why don't you just give access at that rollover point and say you have a choice and let the employees choose? Now, the way you access, to Richard, your point, there are Garrett Network, there's XY Planning, there's NAPFA, there are lots, thousands of really qualified, that's the key. And there's WealthRamp, obviously. WealthRamp is my baby. And frankly, it was part of the reason that I created it, was to help solve this problem, to bring the fiduciary advice to the workplace. And don't force it on anybody. Don't force plan advisors and annuities on anybody. Educate the employees at the point of rollover. Remember, when we first went into the company and we got that, hey, welcome to your 401k, here's your kit, we're going to introduce it, we want you to participate. They weren't shy about educating in several different languages. Now, at the end of your career, you're rolling over. Don't you deserve to get some essential education about what kind of rollover advice you might want to have? And you can say, look, you've got hamburger A over here, and you've got Ed, we have resources for you to tap into yourself outside the plan. They don't have your plan data. And you choose all by yourself which way you want to go. And yes, there are planners. There are planners in my network, Richard, who help people that have zero in retirement, and they're trying to figure out how to make it work with Social Security for the rest of their lives. So we do have.
I know they exist. I just say that they are a minority of financial advisors today,
Right.
and it's hard for people to find them. You need to do some work to locate them. You can do it. It's possible to do it, but it's not easy to do it.
And let me just put on, not my Terry, your money lady friend, but my corporate America insider hat on. No company, it would be great to say, we're going to give you a choice of 14. I brought this up once because one company where I was on the board offered as an executive benefit financial planning advice from a group of 5 that they had negotiated a rate for the top executives. So I brought it to another company who said, we pay them enough money. These are smart people. Let them find their own planners. We are not getting into that. And I can be sure that most of corporate America isn't want to get into endorsing even a fee only, somebody who says they're fee only and fiduciary at this moment of rollover. I think corporate America thinks we paid you well, you did a good job of saving, we contributed and matched, we did everything we could, you're leaving, here's a handshake, good luck. I don't think that the people who run their 401k plan should be allowed access to you as a new retiree. And I don't think corporate America wants to set up a listing of here are 12 fee-only financial planners. We've negotiated a good rate for you. That's not what corporate America is going to sign up for. And I think the DOL is going to get a big rude awakening if they try to force that. The only answer, Richard, you said it, and Pam, that's your life, is to awaken people to the fact that anybody who's standing around as you walk out the door with your bag of money is like the airport when they say if anybody approaches you asking if you want to ride, you shouldn't be going with them. That's the real situation.
That's right. So, I mean, personally, I feel like companies don't have to give names. They just need to educate people that there are resources, and we need to explain to you how advisors operate, what the differences are, and then help you go forth. So they're not keeping them captive to, and it's funny, Terry, you mentioned earlier about soliciting and some of the bigger names, I'm not going to say who they are, not being really actively soliciting, but they are. And that's why there's lawsuits, because they are soliciting the retiring employees. They're really aggressively going after the retiring employees and saying, wait, let's talk. And they sit them down.
You got your funds with us. We have some advisors for you.
So if the company is going to allow that,
critical piece, because I want to clarify my error. My thought was, you're just going to do a direct rollover and choose 5 funds at a low cost, no load mutual fund company. You're saying that just because you were in that kind of low cost fund in your corporate 401k plan, they know who you are, and they're saying, yeah, we're from your wonderful company that's been running your plan. We've got some advice for you. And even that advice could be fraught with commission-based directives.
That's the problem. That's why the DOL is responding with this new rule at rollover. That's precisely why these lawsuits have exploded. So they're already doing it. The cat's already out of the bag. Now it's a question of, okay, look, at least please, 401k providers who are listening, companies listening, educate at the end of the career, just like you did at the beginning. Give people some essential, really practical education on where to go for rollover advice. Yes, you've got this choice here, but yes, there are other choices. But ultimately, you're leaving the company. So it's got to be up to you and your spouse, you and your partner. It's not just you, you've got a family. So that's basically why I really wanted to take a minute to pay attention to, you're hearing about this fiduciary rule. You're probably wondering what's going on. And, like I said, with or without a rule, the decision is totally up to you. And I'd love to hear anything else you guys have to say.
I just have a question. Do you have any sense about when we will have an answer, when the Department of Labor either will or won't offer a rule or some version of it?
Yeah, here's what's likely to happen. A rule's going to go through, and it will probably be late spring or into the summer. And then the rule's going to get pushed back, just like 2018 struck down in court. You're going to see a tug of war. Actually, frankly, who cares? Okay. I don't care about what's happening with them. What I care about is what's the message? What's the canary in the coal mine? What's broken? Why are they screaming? Why is the DOL screaming? It's broke. We got to fix it. There's a problem here. That's where you, as an individual investor, as an individual participant, could say, light bulb's going off. Maybe I really need to think more, about what I'm doing with my rollover and who is being offered as an advisor for my rollover.
So next year,
we woke a lot of people up today.
Yeah, that's what we're supposed to do, right?
Right.
Okay, I'll put it on pause here, but with the promise that we are going to keep you updated as the fiduciaries, the DOL's new fiduciary rule, like I say, is likely to pass this summer. And then we promise to keep you posted, because this goes to the heart and soul of what our podcast is about and what we're paying attention to as you're getting ready to move into retirement. So hopefully this was helpful today, and we will see you next time.
bye.
Friends Talk Money is funded in part by a grant from the Investor Protection Trust. The IPT is a nonprofit organization devoted to investor education. Since 1993, the IPT has worked with the states to provide the independent, objective investor education needed by all Americans to make informed investment decisions. Visit investorprotection.org. We also receive support from the North American Securities Administrators Association, known as NASA. It's the oldest international investor protection organization. NASA's members include state and provincial securities regulators from the U.S., Canada, and Mexico who serve on the front lines of investor protection. Recognizing that education and awareness are powerful tools in the fight against investment fraud, NASA is pleased to sponsor Friends Talk Money. Here are 3 important tips to help you protect your money from fraud. With investing, there are always risks, so be cautious
of anybody telling you that a certain investment is guaranteed. You should also proceed with caution if somebody is promising very large investment returns. This is a common red flag for investment fraud. Last and most importantly, be sure you're working with a licensed or registered financial professional. You can check your advisor and make sure they're licensed by visiting brokercheck.finra.org. NASA is your partner